Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here, 49ers Plus Minus with my co-host. It's Matt Barrows from The Athletic. I think he's a little worried that I will not be focused on 49ers, that I will not be right on top of everything, because I literally just finished a column on the Giants intra presser, their manager, Tony Vitello. But I am so locked in, Barrows. I am just refreshed and ready to go.
This is the sport with the oblong ball. There's no stick or anything like that.
I did ask Tony Vitello about his agent, Jimmy Sexton, who you know from all the football coaching, mostly the college football coaching, but he was Parcells' guy, Nick Saban's guy, and Jimmy, who I go way back with, was not at this presser, as Vitello said. He's a little busy right now. He's got like 7 SEC openings to try to figure out guys for, but no, football, NFL. It is a very important time for the 49ers, who are 5-3 coming off their loss to the Texans. And Barrows, you were telling me before the show, there's a major development coming off a very bad game in Houston, obviously, which we've discussed. But they go into this week and something hasn't happened that we're used to happening.
Well, we're used to having the 49ers lose at least one player long-term, multiple weeks, from Bryce Huff to Nick Bosa to it's a long list. All of the guys who were banged up in the Texans game haven't been banged up for very long. They were all back on the field today. So I don't think, and gosh, I think I should be knocking on wood for this, that they
and
lost
Lynch
anybody long-term, despite how bad the game was on Sunday. So if you're looking really hard for silver linings, that might be the thread of it. And beyond that, Yetur Gross-Matos, who has been dealing with a hamstring injury, was back at practice today, limited. It looks like he's going to play on Sunday. So that's a guy that they haven't had in a while who will be back. I asked him today, I said, is there, speaking of silver linings, is there a silver lining in your hamstring injury that it gave your knee injury a little bit more time to heal? And he said, yeah, absolutely. The knee feels better now than it did a month ago. So theoretically, he can start practicing more. Remember, he barely practiced during the summer and certainly early in the regular season. So, I mean, this idea that things can start coming together in the back half of the season, maybe. He would be a guy that I think the 49ers would like to have out there more than they did in the first half of the season.
And Barrows is our Wednesday. No, sorry, this is Thursday. Thursday evening. I'm on it.
I can confirm that it's Thursday.
Yeah. Thursday evening ritual, basically. The 49ers starting quarterback for Sunday, which is always in question with the 49ers every single week, will be
Mac Jones. Again, I think that Purdy's doing more in practice, and I guess that there's still a window open for him to be available. And it could be that he's actually in uniform in New York. But from what I've seen, Mac Jones is taking, if not all, then the lion's share of the first-team reps. And Mac Jones addressed the media on Thursday. That's always the Tim Kawakami litmus test about who's going to kind of start. I think the 49ers would, if there was like a change, certainly if Mac Jones had gotten, pulls something or something happens during the week, that they would make Purdy or another quarterback available on Friday. So that's still a very, very, very slight possibility. But the Thursday presser belonged to Mac Jones. And like I said, he seems to be getting the starter reps in practice right now.
Yeah, they sure haven't been elusive about this, and I'll give them credit in a sports world where injury reports and what people announce and when is under very close scrutiny. And the Ravens, I don't think the Ravens are screwing around with anybody. They just had Lamar Jackson practice, but as a scout team, and you can't call him full participation if he's not participating in the exact way that he was doing before. And that's kind of a weird rule. I didn't really know that rule. I could see John Harbaugh just say list him as full because he was out there. But the 49ers have not done any of that. And I was wondering if they were going to do some of this. But I think in this climate, not just in the NFL, but including the NBA, you probably shouldn't be messing around that. I don't really what you gain strategically anyway. Maybe in the quarterback's team, the defense prepares in a very specific way, but not really.
Well, for a Lamar Jackson versus his backup, it's a lot different than Mac Jones and Brock Purdy, who you'd probably prepare the same way for both of those guys.
I imagine, and especially Brock Purdy coming off a toe injury or still probably going through it. So let's declare Mac Jones is starting, and I will have to text my friend who has Brock Purdy and checks with me every week to see if Brock Purdy's going to play. And he's not playing, in my opinion. I am ruling that. I'm ruling him out. We'll see if Shanahan agrees with me tomorrow, which is when he usually does this declaratively for the quarterback. I'm just going to go into my little rant. I've done it before. Yetur Gross-Matos has missed how many games this year? Probably 5, something like that.
Well, he was a surprise player in week 1. Remember, yep. We didn't see him practice at all in the summer, and he played 12 snaps in Seattle, and then I forget which game he had the hamstring, whether it was week 3 or week 4. It was a home game, so it was either Cardinals or Jaguars. I can't quite remember.
So missed 3 or 4 games. You've had Jordan Watkins just make his debut last week, so he missed the first 5 games, 6 games, whatever. I can't even count how many games they've played now. You've had Jordan James, who has been – all these guys have been on the active roster the entire time. And Jordan James has not played yet, and I don't know if he's ever going to play. Isaac Guerrero also doesn't play very much, and he's also on the active roster. Why didn't they put – and Brock Purdy, you could say the same thing. He missed the – 5 games now, 4 games. It will be 5 if it includes the Giants, I think. That's after missing a couple, then coming back, then going back out. Matt Barrows, I can understand keeping some of these guys on the active roster because you just don't want to put everybody on IR when you do have to bring some people back and you have a limited number you can't. But is there some regret, I think, quietly, privately, for Shanahan and Lynch, they didn't put some of these guys on IR? Because now you are losing people off your roster because you can't bring him on you lost Travis Gibson, not the greatest player of all time, but somebody they could certainly use. A healthy player, played a lot last week, obviously in a loss, but somebody who played, and you couldn't raise him up. You couldn't use another practice squad, and you didn't have a roster spot for him to put him on the main roster because you're not putting any of these guys on IR. Do they at some point understand what they're doing here, what the risk is, and maybe they should have gone down the IR path for some of these players?
I mean, it's Travis Gibson, and then today they lost Drew Moss, who was an undrafted offensive lineman that they waived in order to make room for Keon White on the active roster. And they were hoping that they could get Moss onto the practice squad today. He got claimed by the Tennessee Titans today. Okay. So he's a guy that, we've talked about him a little bit, but he's a guy that Chris Foerster likes as a developmental center, somebody who they think can be a center project. And, 49ers fans are very, very attuned to the center position. They would like to see a young guy there. And Moss had some good ability. He's very strong. And, that would kind of differentiate him from some other candidates that they've had there. So anyway, it speaks to your issue. I mean, if they had put other guys on IR, they would have those roster spots because they obviously were afraid of Drew Moss getting poached. I mean, that's the reason he's been on the active roster all season, because this is a team that has cut guys like that in the summer in the past and watched them get claimed. And so they tried to, they liked Connor Colby. They kept him around 7th round pick. Probably in other years, he would have been cut and then, stashed on the practice squad. And they did the same with Drew Moss. Again, this is all the 2025 49ers sort of looking into the future more heavily than they have in recent years. But they couldn't maintain that with Drew Moss. So he's not there. So yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, here we are at week 8. And you have half the season ahead of you. Obviously there could be a lot more injuries, but we've seen just the pace at which these guys come back, and it's slow. Yes. So, if guys get injured in weeks 9, 10, 11, 12, very hard to see them coming back and being effective in weeks, 15, 16, 17, and 18, when you would need those last IR elevations, the last of the 8 that you get. So yeah, I agree with you on that. I didn't at the beginning of the season, because you do have to kind of weigh everything. But here we are at the middle of the season. Some of these guys can go on IR.
Jordan James could have been on the IR the whole season. He really could have. Or dare I say it, you put him on the active and you cut Isaac Garendo.
Or you trade Isaac Garendo.
Or trade Isaac Garendo. You do whatever you can there. Do you really need them both? Now, I can understand. Now, listen, Kyle Shanahan can come back to me. Hey, out those years that we ran out of running backs and you were making fun of us for that, for not having enough. This is why we're doing it. You're also losing players now. You're losing players. Again, not the greatest players. Drew Moss and Travis Gibson are not going to be the reason why the 49ers don't get the number 2 seed in the playoffs this year or any year. But healthy bodies matter. Healthy bodies are important just to make sure you can get through a game, and you're not exposing maybe, your Gross Matos is a little hurt and he's got to get in there. I'm not saying you're risking too much, but like there are some issues with a thin roster, especially on the line of scrimmage, and they're saving roster spots for people who have not played. It's just been a little bizarre to me. And you're right. If you're saving, hey, we can't use the move now. Nobody gets hurt. Look at every one of these guys has missed 5, 6, 7 weeks, right? Every single one of them. So what are you saving it for? And then you get more if you make the playoffs anyway. So that's
right.
Just a
you get
thing
2
of mine.
more in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's just a thing of mine. I just think they're over optimistic. I get it. You want to believe in your players. You want to believe they'll be out there for you. You don't want to be negative about an injury that could last 2 weeks and instead last 5. But there's a practicality here. And I think over time, they've just been a little over optimistic about injuries. And I think it's cost them several times, not necessarily on the biggest stuff, but on the margins. And margins are important. Speaking of injuries and surfaces that may be a little troublesome for them, they are playing in the MetLife Stadium on the wonderful artificial surface there that has wrecked them before. Now, they've played there since and have not had the same amount of injuries. You couldn't get the same amount as they had in that 2020 game. You lose Nick Bosa for the year. You lose Jimmy Garoppolo essentially for the year. You lose Raheem Mostert. I think there were others. Barrows, are this someone that they just got through? Anybody talking about this surface, or do they kind of not want to, just you don't want to jinx it?
Yeah, I asked George Kittle about it, and it was clear today that he didn't want to talk about it. I had forgotten that he wasn't up for those games in New York back in 2020. So he's never played there before. But I basically asked him, when you have a surface like MetLife's and, it has some notoriety to it, is the practice that you get out there earlier as a team and sort of walk on it, run on it, do everything that you can just to get acclimated to it? Because I do believe that has been an issue for this team, is that they are so used to practicing on their fantastic grass surface, playing on their fantastic grass surface, that when they do go to a different stadium, this is my hotel pillow theory that you love, they're just not as acclimated to it. And so things happen in those places. I did, before this slips away, want to react to your too optimistic about injuries idea, and because I agree with it, and we can go down the list with that. I mean, Brock Purdy would be Exhibit A. They didn't think that he was going to be out very long. They thought, the only way that he can kind of re-injure this toe is if he gets tackled in the exact same way. Well, he's a running quarterback. He does get tackled a lot, and lo and behold, he got tackled the exact same way. And, the injury lasted a lot longer. They've had 3 PCL injuries. Mac Jones, remember, injured his PCL in the preseason in August. He's still dealing with that. He's still got a brace on that left knee. Dominic Pooney injured his PCL in the preseason. He's still dealing with that. Anybody who watches Pooney closely on Sundays sees him, A, not playing quite as well as he did last year, and then B, getting knocked to the ground. Another Tim Kawakami
Don't go to the ground.
specialty, and then taking a little while to get up. He's labored in getting up. It's just clear as day that he's dealing with something. And then the other PCL is Ricky Pearsall, who injured his right PCL on a throw out of bounds in week 3, and people are starting to freak out that he's not back yet. He's not even practicing yet. He is doing more work on the side. It's more vigorous work than I've seen him do in a while. So he's going full speed. He's cutting. I see the trainer with a video camera videotaping him doing this. So they're all kind of looking at it and analyzing whether or just how close he is to coming back. My untrained eye thinks that he probably is very close, and it might be next week against the Rams that he's coming back. But the point being that these PCLs lingered for all 3 guys, and I think that the 49ers are surprised that they have lingered for all 3 guys. I mean, Shanahan said on a couple of occasions, we thought that Ricky Pearsall would be back by now, and it's just been a slow recovery. He hasn't had a setback, but it's a hard injury to kick, and that's what we're seeing. And that's been the theme of this team over the first half of the season.
And it has been some previous seasons, maybe not as specifically as it has happened this season, but it's taken longer, and injuries take long. You just don't know. So we'll get off that one, other than I've just realized that the Barrows theory, his solution to fix this injury situation going on artificial turf, is to have crappier practice fields. The 49ers are just completely cushy by that. And they're like this team that cannot deal with anything other than their perfect field. Barrows says, let's put some pockmarks in there. Let's make it slippery out there. Make it tough for these guys.
Hey, if you're going to sleep at a Motel 6 for 2 nights, then maybe you should prepare for that with a different pillow.
Get me the Ritz-Carlton. That's all I'm going to say. I'll take every single moment there. Okay. What do you feel for this game? I think we've had a pretty good line on the last couple. At least I have. Barrows, I think you've been good on it too. This is a not great Giants team. We know that they've lost that really tough game where they gave up 33 points in the 4th quarter to the Denver Broncos, but they were up on them. The Broncos are a very solid team, and since then the Giants haven't looked real good, and they just got obliterated by the Eagles last week. I still think the Giants are okay. Jackson Dart is a very interesting quarterback. I know people realize that Cam Scatterbo, their rookie running back, is out for the year, but I didn't think Scatterbo was a different. I think he's fine. I still think he's a guy that you're game planning against necessarily. He's not Saquon Barkley. He's not Christian McCaffrey. Maybe I'm being, his yardage totals were not that great. He's a touchdown maker is what he is. So where do you put the Giants in this scenario? Are they a tough team? Are they an easy team? Where does this go on the spectrum for the 49ers opponents?
Well, that I like to do the the middle rung teams. They lose big one week and then they circle the wagons and win big. So it's really both of these teams it'll be a contest of who can circle the wagons better. Because Scatterbo was definitely a source of emotional lift for the Giants. And losing him is going to be a blow in that regard. The question is whether the Giants get sort of the same emotional game that the 49ers did after losing Fred Warner. Remember, they came back from that one, and the energy in Levi Stadium was palpable against the Atlanta Falcons. Everybody played well. There was electricity in the building, etc. I don't know whether the Giants can do that, but this would be the game that, Jackson Dart, says, we lost Cam for the year. We all have to kind of step up, and maybe they squeeze that out of the team on Sunday. I don't know. I haven't followed them closely enough to kind of really know how that team can react. They're not as talented as the 49ers. The other issue for the 49ers is that the defense was terrible against the Texans. And really, the defense is the same defense that's going to be going on Sunday. I mean, they will have Keon White. They will have Cleveland Ferrell at their disposal, but they're both newcomers. So it's hard to say if either of them is going to play. I think they will, but how well can you expect Keon White to play? How many snaps do you think you're going to get out of Keon White on Sunday? So basically, it's basically the same team. Yetur Gross-Matos added to the to the roster probably that faced the Texans. So those same guys have to step it up for sure.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just don't think the Giants defense matches it can even compare obviously to the Texans. And I just think that obviously the 49ers defense was not good, but I think so much of that game was just triggered by the 49ers inability to even like budge the ball the first 3 times they got it, basically the entire first half. It just set up this downhill situation for everything Houston was doing and made the 49ers have to fight and fight and fight just to even get back in that game. So I just think, Shanahan might not have a lot of answers for the things that D'Amico Ryans could do. I think he's going to have a lot of answers for what the Giants are going to throw at him defensively. It feels like now the Giants have talented players. We know that they have talented players, but Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau and many of the players that fans want.
Brian Burns,
exactly, like one
in their first round draft pick from Penn State.
Abdul Carter, yeah,
and like there's couldn't block Will Anderson. It's not an easier game for them from a pass protection standpoint. For sure. So,
but they did give 33 points up to the Denver Broncos in the fourth quarter. I just feel like this is a game the 49ers you can't scheme yourself to every win. You can't. Like you think, oh, this is the one where Shanahan does it, and sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't. He does have an edge on almost everybody he's going to go up against if he's got the right personnel. We'll see if he does. I think George Kittle, he's got 4 catches since he's come back and realized that's sometimes it's just the game plan, sometimes it's the matchup, sometimes it's what the defense does. But I just think he can get open. I think Mac Jones can get it to him. I think McCaffrey will not be shut down like he was against Houston. There's just some things that they could not do against Houston that just completely upended everything they wanted to do. I just feel like the 49ers can move the ball against this team and play defense well enough that they can win this game. I don't know if it's by a touchdown, but I think as always with them now, it's going to be like, can you hold the other team down in the fourth quarter? But I like them. I did not like them against Atlanta 2 weeks ago. I really liked them against Atlanta 2 weeks ago. Did not like them against Houston last week. I like them against the Giants, almost in a similar way, like the same amount of conviction in each one. We'll see if I'm right. I'm 2-0. I might completely be wrong on this one, but I like the 49ers in this one. I just think Shanahan isn't going to get blown out like that by a defense 2 weeks in a row, and certainly not one that I think is kind of susceptible on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how good the Texans linebackers were. This Shanahan offense is designed, and maybe more so this year, given their issues at wide receiver, to take advantage of linebackers. And I think that the Giants are much more prone to that than the Texans were. So, yeah, you're right. Having said that, though, the 49ers have trouble scoring 20 points this whole season. So when that's kind of your limit, 24 points maybe, it makes every game close. And so, I can't help but think that this is going to be another close one. I think the 49ers will probably win it. They're more talented. They've got the better kicker.
They got NFC Special Team Player of the Month,
Eddie Pinheiro.
Wow.
So, yeah, how many times have we said that in recent years?
It really is amazing.
But I don't think it's going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. And I do think that whoever the Giants running back crew is, this is the game where they're going to come out at least with some fight at the beginning of the game. And the question is, can the 49ers handle that? They didn't handle the initial punch very well in Houston at all. 16-play drive to open the game, and that put them on their heels from jump. So they have to start better. I think Juwan Jennings is healthier. He's been a full go in the 2 practices so far this week, Wednesday and Thursday. I think that's a good sign. that those ribs are starting to calm down a little bit. And I think when that happens, you'll start to see the real Juwan Jennings, who I don't think we've seen since week 2 in New Orleans. So that would be a boon to everything. Third downs for Mac Jones and certainly for the running game.
You know how they can get to 26, 27 points, which I don't know that they've gotten this year yet. Short fields with interceptions. Matt Barrows.
Short fields. You got Brian Robinson returning kicks now. They're going to have awesome field position.
Mark them down to get it to the 50 every single time. They have not had many short fields this season. They just haven't. The special teams weirdness and no interceptions. They've had a couple fumble recoveries, 1 interception, and that whole thing. Multiple interceptions. I'm calling Jackson Dart's going to throw a couple to the wrong team. He's going to throw a lot to the right team. He's a talented dude, and they better watch out for that scrambling because he's really good at it. And if they blow contain, which they often do, that might be problematic. But I think he can be a little wild, throw it to the wrong team, get some short fields, and that's how you get 26, 27 points. It might take that much. I don't count on them to go on 3 touchdown drives, 3 75-yard touchdown drives, but I can see them getting one at the 15 on the other side and just punching that one in. So we'll see. I could be wrong. Let's lead us to, as we got to do the trade deadline discussion. It is Tuesday coming up. It's right after the game. They've already made one trade. I think that was like a flop of 6 and 7s. And they get their defensive lineman. He's not the answer to the edge question for sure. They've got some picks that they've traded already now, Barrows. I was taking a look at it, and they traded a conditional pick for Bryce Huff. What is a 4th or a 5th? So that's not a cheap one. They traded a 5th rounder, I think, for Brian Robinson. They traded a pick last year for the much beloved Khalil Davis. I was just looking. I barely remember.
I had totally forgotten about that until I read about it again this morning.
So I know
and Sky Moore too this year.
And that's next year. I think Sky Moore's next year.
Oh, Sky Moore's next year, right?
But they're counting obviously on these comp picks. I think they're getting 3. They don't know for sure which ones they're getting, but I think they're counting on 2 5ths and a 6. So they're clearly trading from that group. But if you're trading from 3 picks and you've already given up 3 picks, you're basically at your baseline. Now, do you want to trade from your baseline, which is 7 picks? I think they got 7 or 8. Do you really want to start borrowing from that? I think they've been happy to trade knowing they have these comp picks, but do they want to go more than that? Like, do you want to give up comp 4th? Do you want to? Can they even trade comp picks? I shouldn't have said that without even knowing.
I mean, they can if they traded a comp pick for Chase Young a couple of years ago, but that was a coaching comp pick.
Yeah.
So they knew that they were going to get that. I don't think that you can trade something that you're not sure you're going to get.
Right. So they might be really.
I do think that they have 1/4 remaining. Okay. So maybe there's language that says we'll give you our lowest 4th or something like that at the end of the day. I don't know.
I just think these picks are important. I just do. And I know they think that. Because they think every 4th round pick is going to end up to be Malik Mustafa. And I don't even know if he was a 4th. So I'm just throwing that out, and they have a right to think that. Maybe not if they draft a running back in the 3rd or 4th round, but they have a right to think these are good players. And we trade this pick, we're not getting it back. We don't have a comp pick coming back down for it. I would think there would be very leery about trading another pick just because they've already given up a bunch of them. And I understand each one of them. In fact, I pressed them to make trades before everyone on the team got hurt. At this point, I cannot see them giving up the 4th. And I don't know if you're going to get a significant player unless you give up the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, the 4th, whatever. We can go down the list. I just feel like they've done enough in their minds, not enough to make themselves a playoff team, just enough burning of draft capital for this current roster, unless something fantastic comes up. And if something fantastic comes up, then probably they're going to have to give up a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. And I don't think they should do that at all anyway, unless it's for, again, a Pro Bowl player. Do you, assessing the landscape, Barrows, would you agree generally that they're kind of thin on the draft picks that they are going to want to trade?
Yes, for sure. I mean, there's just not a lot to trade there. And then when you hear John Lynch talk about it, he's always bringing up, we're going to get Bryce Huff back next week. And that may be what, he's trying to signal to these GMs that he's not desperate. I will say a couple of things. One is that I think that the Keon White trade was fantastic. I mean, you're not giving up very much. It's high upside. He's got another year on his contract. But he does sort of duplicate something that you already have in Michael Williams and Yetur Gross-Matos, which is that he's mainly a base down end who you really like as an interior rusher on obvious passing downs. He's not the, burst off the line of scrimmage guy that you have out there opposite Huff on third downs, or when Huff's not there, would be your best edge rusher. So you can make the argument that they could still use an edge rusher. I mean, that's not what Cleveland Ferrell is. I mean, he's a base down guy. He had 3.5 sacks back in 2023 when he played all 17 games. So that's not what they were using him for. That's not what he's good at. He's better than what they had, but an argument could be made that if you find that that guy with burst, basically another Bryce Huff type of guy, then they could use that this year. There's one guy, Arnold Ebiketie, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a Falcons defensive end, second-round pick back in 2022. So he's not signed beyond this season. But, the Falcons had a coaching change last year, and then they drafted a couple of edge guys this year, James Pierce and Jalen Walker from Georgia, Michael Williams' teammate. So this guy, Arnold Ebiketie, hope I'm pronouncing that right, is now expendable. He's losing snaps, and he is that sort of third down pass rusher guy. So I don't know what it would take to get him. I'd probably say a 5th round pick. They don't have a 5th round pick. So actually they could have a 5th round pick at the end of the day, because I think if Bryce Huff gets 8 sacks, then the 5th that they sent to Philadelphia becomes a 4th. And Bryce Huff very well could get 8 sacks this year. But that's my.
They wouldn't want that. I mean, they'd want the sacks, but giving up a 4th is a lot, and you might want that.
4th is a lot.
Yeah, and so then you trade your 5th, and you wouldn't have your 4th or your 5th in that scenario. But
and you wouldn't have anybody for next year either.
Yeah, I got in trouble for saying that Huff would need a new contract last episode. I think I said that. And people said, no, that's all wrong. If you knew anything, I said, Barrows is just throwing these people at me, and I'm coming up with their contractual status. I looked at it is designed to get out of the deal next offseason. You can keep it. I think it's a pretty high number, and I think it was designed by the Eagles when they signed him to redo it. So I'm just saying that. I get everyone was mad at me for this one. You have a habit of throwing these things at me, Barrows, and I'm trying to come up with contractual situations I should not on the fly. So I just want to make that clear. It's my fault, not yours. It's my fault. These contractual situations. I just think almost every time a guy is traded, they want the contract redone, right? That's just almost every single time. It's the reason why they are traded is because the contract is either coming up and they become a free agent, or the guy wants the contract redone and the team that has them is feeling like they're not going to re-sign him for that kind of money. That's my general assumption on almost every veteran that's traded, even a young veteran like Huff. It's generally that the contract has to be redone eventually, one way or the other. So I'm just going to toss that one out. And that goes with almost everybody who would be traded. Trey Hendrickson, obviously coming up on the end of a contract. That's why the Bengals would trade him. There's other people. You're just presuming that they're going to need new deals. And if you acquire them, you have to understand either you're letting them go, and you've already traded some for them, or you're going to have to read that contract. And I still think the 49ers are in the mode of giving guys new contracts. They're just not. That's not where they're at. So, or if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be their own guys, which they've done recently. So, all right, there's a little flare up on the Juwan Jennings thing. I don't know where that came from. I guess he's unfollowed them, whatever. We've seen this before. I don't know. I thought he kind of unfollowed them before. I don't know why it came up. Was there a report or anything about that, Barrows? I know Shanahan was asked about it, and he said very unlikely that he would be traded or be not on the team all the way through the season. I understood, he didn't say beyond that, obviously his contract is up, but you and I both have said we don't think he's going to be on the team after this season. But was there anything to that, any real thing, or was it just kind of an internet thing?
I don't think that there was anything real to it. It is easy to get confused about what disgruntled 49ers receiver has unfollowed the team on social media, because it seems to happen every year. I think that Juwan Jennings is frustrated with the season, with the negotiation this summer, all of the above. But he's out there now, and he's getting better.
Well, you had the report. You had the report in the mailbag that I found very interesting. What the plate time incentives actually are. They're different than what I had thought. Go ahead and give us what the plate time incentives actually are.
Yeah, it's $3 million, and it's basically in chunks of 5 games. If he plays 35 or more snaps in those games, he gets $800,000 at each of those 5-game intervals. Mm-hmm. So he's already made $800,000, but he missed 2 games, so that he has to play the rest and play 32 snaps in each of those to maximize the deal. And then he would get an additional $600,000 if he did that in the playoffs. And it's contingent on the 49ers making the playoffs. But it seems doable as long as he's healthy and as long as he's on the 49ers. The other part of the trade question, are they finished trading, is that we don't know what's going to happen at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. And they could also, throw in one of their own players. I mean, we just talked about Guerrero not really having a big role, any role. He's on special teams, but he's not doing any of the return stuff anymore. And then, I think that Jair Brown is a possibility. The problem is that teams don't spend a lot on safeties now. And we've seen some safeties change teams recently. I think the Patriots are interested in the safety, and the fact that Jair Brown wasn't part of this trade with Keon White makes me think that either the 49ers don't want to do it, or that there's not a lot of action out there for 49ers safeties at this point. But if you're looking at places where the 49ers have a glut of guys, I would say that safety is at the top of the list, and then running back, which is ironic because last year it was so bad.
The Jair Brown thing is just really weird this season. He doesn't play. Then he's the nickel linebacker, and now he's the starter. It's just and he's playing well. I thought he's played really well recently. I think he's been one of their, maybe not last game, but the game before that, I thought he was really active and really showing up all over the place. How does this all happen? Is he being dangled in a trade? Is he the guy they're going to keep long term? What does Saleh say about this?
It's mostly Shanahan who's been asked about, the beginning of the season. It was Marquise Siegel and Jason Pinnock were your starting safeties. And I thought that they did pretty well. When you look at explosive plays and things like that, they were among the top safety duos in the league. They also had the benefit of playing behind Nick Bosa and Bryce Huff. So that absolutely helps and makes a difference. But it is funny that after 6 games, the 49ers have totally swapped out both of those players for Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa. And, explosive plays have been common the last 3 weeks against the 49ers. The Buccaneers had a bunch. The Falcons had fewer, but they had some. And then the Texans had a whole lot. And it wasn't always the safety. The linebackers had their role in it. But I don't know. It just seems to me that both Mustafa and Brown are more in the box guys. And that, fine, if you have one of them out there, but why not complement one of them with one of the more free safety types like Marquise Siegel or Jason Pinnock? That's why I think one of them is expendable.
If the 49ers have a long-term vision at safety, you think it's Mustafa and Siegel Siegel.
I do, and I thought that would be what they would go with now. But obviously that they think that Siegel is still developing. I mean, Siegel has speed. Siegel can fly on the back end, and Mustafa and Jair Brown cannot. That long touchdown where the 49ers blitz 2 in Houston came with Jair Brown in coverage. I actually think that he had pretty good coverage on the play. It was a fantastic throw from CJ Stroud, but it does expose the fact that when he's in single coverage, which you have to do when you blitz 2, and which 49ers might have to do quite a bit over these last 9 games, he's not great as a coverage guy. I would think that Siegel would be better.
I don't get this stuff. I don't understand what's going on with specifically with Jair Brown, but coaches do interesting things. There's different reasons that we do not know about. I do think they could trade him, former 2nd round pick, right? I mean, you're going to be third. I'm sorry. Well, you could probably get a 4th or 5th, I think, from some team that liked him in the draft. That's usually how it works. Very interesting to me, and we'll continue to monitor it. And like Malik Mustafa is the only guy who's guaranteed snaps on that in that safety group, and I get that he's probably their most talented safety. It just seems interesting what they're doing with everyone else. When I agree with you, I thought Pinnock and Siegel were actually a pretty good pairing, and I think Pinnock is like a really solid back end defender. Like, he's not super fast, he's not super tackler, but man, he puts you in the right spot and he gets the right spot.
He's Tashawn Gibson. He's this year's Tashawn Gibson.
And there's a reason why Tashawn Gibson showed up and just played the rest of the year, a Super Bowl year, right? That was a Super Bowl year. So who knows? The mysteries of the 49ers. All right, we banged up enough time on this. You got one more point.
Yeah, I have to come clean. I don't know if you listened to yesterday's solo cast at all.
Some of it.
But I made note of the fact that Andre Dillard was back.
Mm-hmm.
And remember Andre Dillard from our summer discussions.
Absolutely.
You were not you were questioning his existence in fact, because you never saw him at practice. Well, I talked to Dillard yesterday, and I asked Shanahan about Dillard. Dillard is a former top pick.
Yep.
He's a guy that once ran a 4.96 40 at 315 pounds, and I thought, okay, he's back now. He's healthy. He's finally past this ankle injury. And I talked to him, and he said, I feel great. I feel like I have, unlike I have in a long time. And so I mused on yesterday's solo cast that, he might be the swing tackle. I mean, not now, but once he gets into the swing of things, he's got talent. He's got more talent than anyone else they have back there. Well, today they cut Andre Dillard. It's not funny. I mean, I'm sure it's injury related, but it's literally 2 days. So
I'm not laughing at Andre Dillard. I'm laughing at you. Laughing at you, by the way. Let me make sure.
Okay, yeah, we're laughing at me. 2 days ago, they cut Brandon Parker, a tackle, from the practice squad so that they could sign Andre Dillard. Well, today we go in there and they're redoing that locker, the nameplate. And then we see Brandon Parker stroll through the locker room again. And we're like, wait, wasn't he just cut 36 hours ago? And lo and behold, they made another switch. So I wonder if it was one of those where poor Brandon Parker is about to get on the plane and John Lynch goes, hey, don't get on that plane. Whatever you do, come back. So,
oh my goodness,
your Andre Dillard pessimism was correct.
Barrows, I did hear that, and I will mention, just because it's funny, not because I'm making fun of anybody who was hurt. Didn't you have him as possibly the next left tackle to replace Trent Williams?
I can neither confirm nor deny. I'm talking to our producer to have that
take that
sponge from the internet.
Of course, I heard that part because me and Andre Dillard. I'm not sure about this guy. Hey, they did bring him back. Like, they opened up that that issue.
But
But
there was just so much optimism yesterday, and I'm like, oh, and I bought into it. I'm like, yes, this is possible. I see the future.
Yeah, maybe they'll bring him back again, and you could go through that whole thing again. But I'm sorry, that is amazing.
Hey, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool
wait
me
till you start.
times.
Wait till you start reporting that Jake Moody's coming back. Then we'll really have you on top of something like that. All right, that was a good way to end this. It's been a long day for me, but Barrows, I never mind treading through the Barrows oopsie daisies, and that was one of them with Andre Dillard, of all people.
If you're keeping score, that's a point for Tim Kawakami right there.
Not a point for me. That's just a negative for Barrows. Don't give me a point or not. Don't involve me with that one because I was not part of it. If you had said it when I was on, then that might be a different thing. That just makes everyone more eager for the next Barrows solo pod because
now it's sullied my reputation. No one's gonna watch the Barrows solo cast.
Oh, very good. All right, everybody, that's a good way to send off 49ers at the Giants with an extra hour to sleep, as I pointed out, because it is the end of daylight savings. So it will feel like an 11 o'clock game. I think that does make a difference. We saw what happened to the 49ers on 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 11 in Houston. It was terrible.
Not great.
So maybe they'll wake up a little earlier. Wake up a little faster during the game, and will be a better outcome. We shall see. We will talk to you Sunday evening probably, or whether that post Monday morning, I'm not 100% sure, but probably Sunday evening next time on 49ers Plus Minus. See you, everybody.